The book we are discussing in this update is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. We will re-examine this renowned Chinese military theory work from a new perspective. Before we dive in, please click on the subscribe button below the video to stay connected. The Art of War is widely known in China, and you can also find the book on major online bookstores. Even if you haven't read it completely, you can probably recite some phrases like know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated, and there are no constant conditions in warfare. Water has no constant shape. These sentences are familiar to many. In China, most libraries have a corner dedicated to the art of war, surrounded by various academic or popular interpretations, often alongside books like The 36 Stratagems and Thick Black Theory, making it seem like a collection of cunning tactics. In reality, the art of war holds an extremely important place in traditional Chinese culture. Today, it is no longer just a military book. Its principles have been applied across various fields such as business, management, and interpersonal relationships. For instance, the United States Military Academy at West Point uses The Art of War as a teaching reference. Konosuke Matsushita, the president of Panasonic in Japan, internalized the art of war into his corporate culture. Chinese military strategists throughout history have used it as the theoretical basis for developing military strategies. So, what kind of book is The Art of War? It was written around the end of the spring and autumn period, over 2,500 years ago. The book consists of 3 volumes with 13 chapters, totaling more than 6,000 words. The author, Sun Tzu, was a general during the spring and autumn period. Since its creation, many famous historical figures have interpreted it. The first systematic annotation was done by Cao Cao during the Three Kingdoms period, and it has since been interpreted by many scholars, passing down through generations. This new interpretation of the art of war offers many personal insights. Here, I will share some of the most revolutionary understandings of the art of war. I will explain the book in 3 parts. The first part is that the art of war mainly discusses how the strong can defeat the weak, not how the weak can defeat the strong. The second part is that Sun Tzu believes that often waiting is the best strategy. The third part is that everything should be thought out with failure as a premise. Let's go through these 3 parts one by one. Part 1. Let's look at the idea that the art of war mainly discusses how the strong defeat the weak, not how the weak defeat the strong. This contrasts with many Hollywood movies where the underdog or the seemingly weaker hero triumphs against formidable opponents. This trope is prevalent in many superhero films, where the hero, despite starting from a position of weakness, overcomes great odds to defeat a much stronger adversary. For example, Batman, Spider-Man, the Avengers, etc. These stories resonate by showcasing heroes overcoming great odds, contrasting with Sun Tzu's pragmatic approach, which stresses ensuring strength and preparation before conflict. While Sun Tzu's strategies are practical and calculated, Hollywood celebrates the inspiring journey of the underdog, captivating audiences with tales of triumph against adversity. However, when we think of military strategy, our first reaction to the book is often to use tricks, ways to defeat the enemy with minimal resources. In Chinese history, there is a famous battles where smaller forces defeated larger ones, like the Battle of Red Cliffs, where Zhou used 50,000 troops defeated over 200,000 of the enemy, establishing the foundation for the Three Kingdoms. The Battle of Fei River, where Xie Xian used 80,000 troops to rout Fu Jian's 970,000 strong army, leaving only about 10,000 survivors when pursued to Luoyang. Using strategy well can determine the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Therefore, the art of war begins with the planning chapter, discussing the concept of planning. In the past, we've heard of various strategies like the 36 stratagems and delaying tactics. But is this the same planning mentioned in the art of war? Let's start with a phrase from The Art of War. Warfare is the way of deception, meaning the art of war lies in change and surprise. This phrase has misled many. Most people interpret it as the necessity of cunning in warfare. But actually, planning in the art of war does not mean strategy in the sense of cunning tricks, but rather calculating the probability of success or failure through objective analysis. Sun Tzu's intention was not to advocate for cunning and trickery to achieve victory from a weak position, but to advocate for thorough calculation and probability analysis before engaging in war. If the probability of winning is high, then we fight. If it's low, we avoid unnecessary losses. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu states, "Warfare is a matter of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, survival or ruin. Hence, it is imperative that it be thoroughly studied." This means that warfare is a significant matter of the state, involving life and death, survival or destruction, and must not be taken lightly. Sun Tzu advocates for careful assessment of various factors, ensuring an absolute advantage before engaging in war. The core idea of The Art of War is to teach people to win with strength, not to win with weakness. This core idea might differ from our previous understanding, as we've often heard of another famous historical figure, Zhuge Liang's brilliant strategies, like the empty fort strategy and borrowing arrows with straw boats. Even today, CEOs of large and small companies draw inspiration from Zhuge Liang's strategies to outmaneuver larger competitors. Zhuge Liang's strategies are not the planning emphasized in The Art of War. Sun Tzu's planning involves 5 factors and 7 calculations, measuring oneself and the opponent. The 5 factors are way, heaven, earth, commander, and law, referring to political considerations, timing, geographical advantages, leadership qualities, and military regulations. The 7 calculations involve asking oneself 7 questions. Is this war righteous? Is the commander competent? What is the weather like? What is the geographical environment? Are the troops disciplined? How does our weaponry compare to the enemy's? Are the soldiers well trained, and is the reward and punishment system clear? Understanding the meaning of the 5 factors and 7 calculations helps us see why Zhuge Liang's strategies are not the optimal choice. For example, Zhuge Liang's repeated northern expeditions drained Shu's resources without achieving significant results, hastening Shu's downfall. This reflects a lack of reverence for war's consequences. Sun Tzu says, "Hence, the skillful fighter wins battles without seeking glory, and his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage." True masters of warfare achieve seemingly ordinary victories through overwhelming strength, without dramatic stories. Victory is determined before the battle begins. Thus, Sun Tzu's philosophy emphasizes not fighting unless victory is certain, advocating for overwhelming strength and thorough preparation rather than cunning tricks. This is the core idea, winning with strength, not with weakness. Next, let's discuss the second point. Waiting is often the best strategy. Part 2. Let's start with a story. During Japan's Warring States period, there were 3 heroes, Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. One day they went bird watching, but the bird wouldn't sing. Nobunaga said, "If it doesn't sing, kill it." Hideyoshi said, "No need to kill it. Reward it for singing and punish it for not singing." Finally, Ieyasu said, "Do nothing, just wait. If it's a bird, it will sing eventually." This anecdote illustrates the value of patience. Among the 3, Ieyasu was not the most aggressive but the most patient, ultimately unifying Japan. In contrast, Hannibal, the famous ancient European military commander, said, "Attack is the best defense." However, Sun Tzu's teachings often emphasize the importance of waiting. For example, Sun Tzu says, "Those skilled in warfare ensure their own invulnerability. Then they wait for the enemy's vulnerability." Invincibility lies in defense, the possibility of victory in the attack. Thus, those skilled in warfare can secure themselves against defeat but cannot be certain of defeating the enemy. This means skilled warriors first ensure they cannot be defeated and then wait for the enemy to become vulnerable. Victory lies in the enemy's mistakes, not just in one's own strength. If the enemy is flawless, the best option is to wait. Waiting is not inaction but a period of accumulation and preparation. Successful waiting requires patience, building strength, and seizing the right moment to strike decisively. This idea is encapsulated in Sun Tzu's phrase, "The best way to avoid defeat is to defend. The best way to achieve victory is to attack." Defense requires adequate resources. Attack requires overwhelming strength. For businesses, focusing on core competencies is defense, while expanding into new areas is attack. Similarly, individuals should concentrate on their expertise, becoming authorities in their fields. Sun Tzu's strategy emphasizes waiting for the right moment, accumulating strength, and ensuring overwhelming power before making a move. This cautious approach is a major theme throughout The Art of War, advocating for risk assessment, cost evaluation, and considering the consequences of failure before any action. Part 3. Sun Tzu stresses thinking about failure as a premise for any action. Before starting, consider the potential for failure and plan to avoid or mitigate it. This contrasts with the usual approach of assuming success and focusing on achieving it. You might wonder, why focus on failure instead of success? Sun Tzu's approach is to assume failure first and then develop strategies to avoid it, ensuring a strong foundation before aiming for success. For instance, the first chapter, Planning, emphasizes risk assessment, while subsequent chapters discuss cost calculations and resource management. Sun Tzu's meticulous calculations highlight the high costs of war, urging careful consideration before engaging in battle. Similarly, running a business requires a failure-first mindset, prioritizing risk management over potential gains. Successful entrepreneurs often focus on mitigating risks and building resilience, rather than chasing every opportunity. Sun Tzu also teaches the importance of knowing when to accept defeat. He says, "If 10 times the enemy's strength, surround them. If 5 times, attack them. If double, divide your forces. If equally matched, you may engage them. If fewer in number, you must be able to evade them. If weaker, you must be able to avoid them." This means assessing relative strength and choosing actions accordingly. Small forces should avoid direct confrontation with larger ones, recognizing when to retreat and regroup. This contrasts with the common narrative of fighting against all odds. Sun Tzu's conservative approach prioritizes survival and strategic retreats, challenging the glorified tales of underdog victories. Recognizing and accepting the possibility of failure is crucial for long-term success. In summary, I recommend you read the original book. In this interpretation, the 3 key points I would like to summarize for you are: The Art of War focuses on the strong defeating the weak, emphasizing thorough preparation and ensuring an overwhelming advantage before engaging in conflict. Waiting is often the best strategy, as it allows for accumulation of strength and seizing the right moment for decisive action. Always consider failure first, assessing risks, costs, and potential consequences before any action, and be prepared to accept defeat when necessary. Ultimately, The Art of War teaches fundamental principles. Focus on the basics, manage oneself, and prepare thoroughly before acting. Engage only when victory is assured, achieving success through strength and patience. The original book link is attached at the end for further reading. You can also click the share button below the video to share this book with your friends. Congratulations, you've just finished another book.